Thank you all for coming back for our second part of Public Square. We've added in a few of our community leaders. And I want to start with you, Joseph. You are heading a new office at Albuquerque Public Schools, the Office of Equity. What is that office tasked with doing and looking at some of these issues we've talked about in this first part of the show?
Well, I think one of the biggest things that we need to do is to continue to give youth voice.
How are you doing that?
We have not consistently done that over many years at Albuquerque Public Schools. And so the first thing we did is we had a My Brother's Keeper Youth Summit where we talked about student engagement and student discipline, and we had more than 200 youth from across the district come together. They don't feel engaged in school. They feel like they're being pushed out at every turn, that adults aren't engaging with them or connecting with them as individuals or caring about them simply. So we are taking that information and trying to move it forward. We're working with the Forum for Youth to design a mechanism that we have space so that youth can come on a regular basis. Before, the superintendent in the past had an advisory council which was largely made up of student body presidents. But what we know is that's not a wide range of voice for students to come forward. We need students who are engaged in school at high levels, like being a student body president, but also hearing from the disengaged youth of why they left school, why they're thinking of dropping out of school, why are they going down the path of GED, and what can we do better as an institution to take on these matters.
John, I know you've been working for a number of years, putting some reforms in place in Rio Rancho, just in terms of how the disciplinary process works. Has that had an impact?
We had over 100 approximate hearings that were happening a year for approximately about 16,500 students. We are now doing approximately 35 to 45 hearings a year. And we have a process set up where when an administrator puts that, I want to take a student to hearing, I look through it and I say, okay, have you gone to SAT? Have you had
What does that mean? What is
student assistance team?
Okay.
Have you met with the parents? Have you had more than one meeting with the parent? And an actual sit-down parent meeting, not a meeting of just on the phone and talking for 5 minutes and getting angry and not accomplishing much. But having those type of meetings, is the counselor involved? Have they been referred to outside resources that might be there in the community? You know, have all these things been done before we even look at taking a student to a hearing? Because obviously, as we all know, if a student is acting out, something's going on.
I just wanted to ask, like Alyssa, what would have helped you in the school system? Like, what would have made a difference or kept you engaged or in school?
I just felt like I was not welcomed there. I felt like I wasn't welcomed by the students, teachers, staff, and I just felt like maybe if I had more of that support there by staff and teachers telling me, like, you could do it, don't give up, instead of saying, oh, just go get your GED. That kind of just made me feel like, well, okay, well then, bye, I'll go get my GED.
It seems like we need a shift in priorities and maybe like a shift in how we fund these priorities to like address the disconnect that kids feel.
Actually, our 2 comprehensive high schools have 8 counselors at each of the schools, and then our Independence High School has 2 counselors. And those counselors are able to stay on top with those students and see what's going on and be able to get the opinions from them or what's bothering them, or why are they not doing well. I don't think any student should be told to just go get their GED.
Do we have enough counselors or social workers like that in APS? I mean, it's an enormous school system. We have, what, like 150 maybe social workers?
Well, I mean, I think resources are always something that can be asked for. But what I think we need to do is also scale up and look at the model that Officer Villalobos has done at Trisco Heritage. And it's using community supports, community organizations that are already doing great work with our youth, and putting them in place into the schools so that they can connect directly, immediately with our students. You know, one of the prime examples that you can see at a Trisco Heritage that's different is if you're in any other school and you get in trouble for a substance abuse violation, you're referred to a counselor from the district that will work with you. That may happen in 48, 72, a week later. When it happens at a Trisco Heritage, it is immediate.
So you're talking about 48 hours a week. Why is it important to, I'm looking at Michael because he's often getting these kids, or Patricio, to get the kids right away?
The biggest reason why I want immediate direct services is I don't think it's reasonable if this kid is involved in negative behavior and they get services 2 or 3 weeks down the road because they've already forgotten what they've done and have moved on.
Absolutely.
You know, so we're looking at changing behaviors. We have to give them as much information as we can during that time where the behavior is occurring instead of waiting for it.
And if I may, and that's kind of why I made reference to the reason why we suspend, you know, or administrators suspend. Sometimes if they do get caught, let's say with, you know, marijuana, they're suspended 2-3 days out of school. If they're disconnected from the school or people that can, you know, assist them, who knows what they're doing at home, especially if they have parents who work.
That's when they end up in your court.
Yes.
When they end up in front of you, you know, they've already reached a point where a lot of things have gone wrong.
What we can do as judicial officers and as people in the juvenile justice system is enhance collaboration. Call the meeting and they will come, to address preventative approaches rather than, you know, send your kid to our court and we'll deal with it, because it doesn't work. You know, we're dealing with things after the fact when, I think as was already mentioned, the young person has long forgotten what it is they did and why am I here and what do you know, what are you going to do about it? So I think some of the things, like I know we've used the term school to prison pipeline. The National Council of Juvenile Justice, National Council of Juvenile and Family Court Judges has coined, I think, a more neutral term that's called school pathways to juvenile justice, because we all have a role in it. It's not just the schools and what they do or don't do, but it's what we do or don't do as a community. When are we going to own it as members of the community and get involved early and often? Because by the time it gets to us, Jerry can attest, and some of the young people can attest here, that once they end up in a courtroom before a judge, we have young ladies, not many young men, but young ladies who say, just give me my commitment. That's the quickest way out. And that's not a solution in my mind, because we're just kicking the can down the road.
What were you going to say, Ruth?
Well, I was going to say, and I think Judge Romero, what you're talking about, and Alyssa has talked about, is that's a symptom that something's not working. That young people are in a place of saying, I don't want to do probation, or I'm done with all these programs, just lock me up for a year, put me in prison. That's a really scary, and I know, and what I'm happy to be able to say is that's something that Bernalillo County is actively taking on to figure out. Because this is a moral dilemma. This is a moral issue that we are locking up our young people. We are locking up and throwing away the key, and we're pushing young people there. And I mean, Judge, you said it really well. I think it's not just school, and people talk about it's cradle to prison. I mean, we look at 3rd grade test scores to predict how many prison beds we need.
Right.
As a nation, we're looking at 3rd grade test scores.
That's pretty sad.
That's terrifying.
It's true.
And it's true. It's in 3rd grade, we're predicting prison. And so I think we have to look at, this is a moral issue. And I think about the work that we're doing, we have to also look at structural racism and institutional racism and understand that you know, there's implicit bias in understanding those pieces. And I think those, until we, like, those are the roots of why we have certain young people in prison, or certain young people being pushed out of schools, and certain young people have really negative interactions with law enforcement.
In my district, the South Valley, we have, the zip code has probably one of the highest incarceration rates for youth and adults. So, I mean, kids are growing up with this kind of attitude about where they're from. The media, of course, doesn't help. And the kids kind of think that. So one of the challenges that I have, first being a police officer, was trying to, you know, bridge that gap and create those relationships. But the second was, it was really difficult for me to have a conversation with the students and say, you are better than, you know, you're better than what society thinks about you just because of where you're from. And once I started really having those conversations with the students, that's when I started identifying the potential leaders in our community. But it took that one thing, and we can all throw money at this, we can create alternatives, but if we are not empowering our youth to change the way they perceive themselves, regardless of where they're from, I think we're going to be wasting some time.
Children don't perceive themselves like that just naturally. When they're born, they don't see themselves as lesser. That happens because of the institutions that affect them and the way people treat them.
Plus, a lot of it comes from home life. And, you know, I think...
From hard homes. I
So,
hear that part,
yeah.
yes.
If you listen to Alyssa and you listen to the other students, there's a fact that they're the experts in their own experience.
Yes.
They're the experts. We do not take the time to listen to their expertise and then build backward from what they're telling us. It's one thing to listen to kids. It's another thing to be able to redesign around what their needs are. And that's the space that we're in now. We're in a redesign space.
Well, Joseph, you mentioned the initiative you had where there was input from young people, and which surprised some folks. I mean, how do you continue that process so their voices are heard and legitimized?
Well, and that's why we're partnering with the Forum for Youth to continue that space so that we are moving things forward.
But it's also a change in mindset for like teachers too.
It's a huge
for
change in mindset. And the other thing, you know, we're taking on is looking at the Student Behavior Handbook. It is a system that's very punitive. So we are taking on that journey because we heard from our youth that is one of the biggest things that is kicking students literally out of school without having the proper supports in place for them to engage with dealing with the issues that they are facing. So we are taking that on head on. And so we know that there's a process to go through. Now I'll tell you, that is going to be some of the hardest work that we will ever do, because having initial conversations with our teachers are saying, that's the only lever that we have to get students to do something. So we have to also be working on changing the culture.
Part of it seems to be training the teachers too. I mean, it goes to what Gail was talking about, training them to deal with kids who aren't fitting behavioral norms because they have other issues going on.
They have skill deficits.
They have skill deficits,
created by disability potentially, but kids who are not successful in school, it starts very early. Albuquerque Public Schools, Rio Rancho Public Schools, all these public schools still call parents of students with disabilities to say, come pick Susie up. At lunch today, she's having a hard day. They very silently and without a record start sending kids home at very early ages. It happens every day in these schools.
So this seems to go towards teacher training as well, though, because look, we all know teachers have a really difficult job and they're balancing a lot, and you have disruption in the classroom and you're trying to figure out how to do it. Some of them don't handle it well and some of them do.
What we've done is we created resources for the teacher, because we're human. We have bad days. And sometimes a student and a teacher have the same bad day at the same time. And instead of suspending that student for that negative outcry or whatever was happening in the classroom, they get sent to our Student Success Center. We have an awesome individual there, Dean Lay, who has a conversation about expectations, respect. But one of the things that really makes what he does great is he listens to the student, and then he has a conversation with the teacher, and then he brings them both together and they have a conversation to resolve the problem.
There's a general progression right now away from zero tolerance, away from these automatic suspensions, but some people are arguing against that and saying we're putting all these resources into kids who are disruptive while the majority of kids want to learn and they're doing the right things.
There's a sentiment among many people that coddling young people who behave badly just interferes with everybody else's education. And that's a pretty pervasive sentiment among a lot of people, but they happen to be people who don't have kids in school. They look at school and they wonder, how come that kid's so disruptive, and why don't you do something about that? But they're people that look from the outside in. They don't understand the circumstance of the kids who are in school. They don't understand the fundamental, that the pathway to learning is through support. That unless you feel safe and you feel supported, you're not gonna learn. And so they look at the school and they judge what happens in school, but they don't understand the circumstances of the kids who are there. They don't understand the experiences that the kids have had, or the challenge of reorienting a teacher away from a discipline model to a supportive model. Those are immense challenges.
You face that same pressure on the bench?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, especially on the children's court bench. People want kids hammered. They want them dealt with severely. Almost a feeling like their solution would be, and sometimes it's from parents, and I exaggerate only a little bit, take them out in the back and shoot them, because that's the solution. Obviously, that's not going to solve anything. You know, 1 suspension, 2 suspensions is a guarantee that that child's going to drop out of school, is a guarantee that they're going to end up in the juvenile justice system, is a guarantee that they will likely have children at a young age themselves, that they will be utilizing the child welfare system because of neglect and abuse, and the cycle starts all over again.
We used to have 110 to 115 kids every day in detention in Bernalillo County in the late 1990s. I'm sure Judge remembers those times when that's overcrowding in a juvenile detention center. Now our average daily population hovers around between 30 to 40 youth from Bernalillo County. And it's been an incredible decrease. So what is your reaction as the community? You've left all these kids out into the community. What are they doing? Well, our data shows, and it's very counterintuitive, that the juvenile crime rate, not just misdemeanors, but felony and serious crimes, have dropped over 50% in Albuquerque in that time period as well.
You know, we very often are penny wise and pound foolish because we say we cannot afford another support program. We can't afford not to have those support programs because those are cheaper in the long term than spending money on housing a youth in Camino Nuevo or at Bernalillo County Youth Services Center.
Go ahead, Tom.
And I would talk about our ACE program, which is our alternative education setting, which is funded through the Sandoval County Juvenile Justice Board through CYFD. And it's a small percentage when you look at it amount-wise. It's like 86, Michael's aware of it too. It's about $86,000 that supports a teacher and an EA. And when students are short or long-term suspended from 6th through 12th grade in Rio Rancho Public Schools, they can attend this program where they do get support through a New Day Youth right away. That there's a counselor there, someone to support them right away. And if they go to hearing, then they are allowed to go there and work on all of their homework and retain their credits, and then be able to go back into the school setting. If our crime rates are going down, well, we look at Rio Rancho. Our students are somewhere. They're not just out at home or in the streets and not feeling cared about.
Is that a model, I don't know if we do that in APS, that maybe APS should look at to help students who are suspended so they can do something like that, being an alternative?
Well, I think we do have alternative programs, but you know what, the charter school world has really filled a lot of that niche where they've been kicked out of the system, and so you have different programs like Tony's schools who have picked up where we have failed. And so how do we scale up those programs? But also when a student
You mean like how could APS learn from
How can APS
Tony?
learn from not only the charter schools but from Rio Rancho Public Schools? But I think the other thing that's important for us to tackle is, as we heard from the youth who were disconnected at some point, went to the juvenile detention center, our school that is there. They are engaged in school and learning, but we haven't figured out and done a good job of transitioning that schoolwork back to their home school. Instead, we say, you're going back to Manzano, you're out of the juvenile detention center, you're going to be on probation. Good luck to you going back to this large, massive, comprehensive high school with no supports.
That's kind of what happened to you.
I think a lot of what needs to go on is that we need to let youth figure out themselves on their own. Like, when you have somebody telling you what to do all the time, you don't get to figure out who you are inside. I mean, throughout my whole time in the system, in and out, and going and taking my commitment, I found myself in there. And it wasn't because I found myself through help. I found help from myself. I know whenever I went to the juvenile detention center, there was school in there, but honestly, I'm gonna be honest, it was not school to me. I sat there and I looked and talked, and I just felt like I was told that you have to be there for 30 days in order to build credits while you were in the juvenile detention center.
And they like say they send grades out to your school, but like
they never did.
Like they do, but like it's not the same subject. So you could be doing like junior stuff, and it'll be like 8th grade math over there, and like they can't count it as your grade, you know.
Yeah.
And so that's where we fall behind.
So there's almost an incentive to keep a child longer in the detention center so they can get credits, when we know there's nothing good that comes out of being in a secure detention facility.
But also, like when I went to Camino, they had Foothill High School, and that to me was how a high school was supposed to be. Even though I was in a locked down facility, I actually felt I got the education I needed. I went in there with 7 credits and came out with 15. And those teachers actually cared. That's why I actually got out wanting to go and do school, because I was like, I actually feel school. I actually feel like I'm getting somewhere. And then I get out, I go back to public high school, and it's nothing.
And I've heard a lot of discussion today about what we're doing for children, but what are we doing for those who still have a legal right to their children, who are still the parents and legally obligated? How are we including them, or how are we continuing to push them out and disenfranchise them from those that they love much more than we ever could?
Judge, I'm glad you asked that question, because I was going to comment on that. We're all aware of some of the social issues that are dealing with single parents and, you know, some of the poverty issues. But that parent, what I really quickly realized is they didn't have a connection to the school. They weren't able to just walk in, especially if they're Spanish speaking only. They were afraid, you know, that no one there spoke Spanish. So we have to make sure that our schools are able to cater to the community as well. Plus have an open door. A lot of our immigrant parents did not want to come in and have a conversation with me about their kids, because they had this fear that I was going to deport them, which, you know, I had to really kind of identify that and change that thinking. But it's about the partnerships and the schools really recognizing what's going on in your school district and accommodating that community. Families are very important, and the school has to be able to accommodate that.
So as we wrap up, so what's the next step that we need to take?
I've been thinking about training, specific training for teachers and staff. While I was in the juvenile detention center, I was actually diagnosed with depression and anxiety. And I think that's what the training we need is. Teachers need to understand that people do have certain diagnoses, and that certain things can set them off. Even just by telling them, go get your GED, that could just set somebody off into a whole world of thinking. Even in the people, the staff that were taking care or watching me while I was in Camino, it was not, like, I think that's a big issue we need to look at too, is what's actually going on inside the facilities, because not many people know anything that goes on, and people come out changed. I came out like not wanting to ever go back because of what happened to me in there.
What we're describing here is people coming together to learn about each other and engage and involving the voice of everybody. And right now, sort of teachers, we've kind of put them over here to the side. They need to be part of this too, because they also feel disrespected in this system. They feel like they're not heard, like their needs aren't being met, like they're not part of the solution. The principals feel the same way.
If we want to train our teachers, yes, that's great, we need to do it. We need more days of professional development to do that. We have not increased our workday for teachers of 182 days, and within that there's only a set amount of professional development days, which includes Common Core, which includes professional development for other things such as sexual harassment, Title IX, I mean so many different things. We have to look as a state, how do we increase the number of days for our students possibly and for our staff so that they can get all the professional development that they need.
Okay, there's a ton more we could talk about, but I want to thank you all for coming and talking about this issue.
Thank you.